I just released my starter variant of the Bladedancer Dancing Strikes build, crushing all content from level 1. I've since then improved upon it even further, and at this point, I'm one-tapping 1,000 corruption bosses. I'm flying through monoliths, and I'm one-tapping T4 Julra with ease. On top of that, it's now tanky enough to face tank pretty much anything in 1,000 corruption, having loads of ward, damage reduction, and a truckload of dodge. Honestly, this is not only the most fun rogue build I've played in this game, but also the strongest. And there's still loads of damage and tankiness to obtain via better gear, so you should have no problem pushing several thousand corruption with this. I'll probably be in 2,000 by tomorrow, and just as a proof of concept, my character is on seasonal, so there's no dirty standard league or offline shenanigans going on here. Alright, enough yapping. Let's see how the build actually functions now, shall we? First, we have the skills. These are still the same as in my last build version. The main difference here being in their respective skill trees. But just as a bit of repetition, our main skill is going to be Dancing Strikes. This is the only button we're pressing for 95% of the time. We'll have it massively buff our overall damage, while also having it spawn Shadow Cascade and Shurikens, which will be 2 of our main damage dealers. And the third being Blade Storm. This skill is just fantastic this season. It aimbots, it deals truckloads of damage, and we can have it deal a fuckton more damage by spawning Shurikens and Shadow Daggers for us. Yummers. The third skill that we're actually pressing is Smoke Bomb. This buffs us in a multitude of ways, but it also serves as our traversal skill. Alright, now let's head on to the gear, where I've made some substantial changes since the last version. The biggest being the fact I'm now rocking a low-life setup. This is made possible via the new Architects of Astral Blood Legendary, making it the only mandatory item you need for this build version to function. Hell, this is so fucking busted. It single-handedly grants me about 3,400 ward, as it not only generates ward, but also solves ward decay at the same time. It does, however, have the downside of putting a cap on how much ward you can obtain, but that's not really a problem. With better gear and more life rolls, you can get your ward up to 7,000 if you want. In any way, get this ASAP with a life slam on it. The other way of obtaining ward is via an experimental ward affix on your gloves, where you're looking for a Liraka, as we're stacking throwing damage in this build setup. Alright, and why do we even want to play a low-life variant? Well, shit man, it not only doubles your health pool, but it also synergizes nicely with Bladedancer, granting us both damage reduction and crit damage when on low life. This also means you actually want to stay on low life, meaning you don't want healing, making your life go above 35% life. And now that we're going low life, we can slap on a peak of the mountain to easily solve crit chance. You're going for exactly 100% crit chance, where you solve it via your gear, but you also have several nodes in the passive tree that you can utilize if you can't reach 100% solely from gear, which was the case for me. The same goes for crit avoidance. I have crit avoidance on my helmet, ring, and the critical eye node. But in case you fuck up your slams, you also have resilience to solve it. Just ensure you get to 100% or else you may get one-tapped. Alright, and once you've capped those two, you're looking to cap your resistances to the best of your capabilities and grab at least one mana regeneration roll, because your Blade Storm spits out shurikens if and only if your mana is above 50%. Once all of this is done though, we can start looking at some more interesting stats. As Amulet, I'm rocking an Omnis for the skill ranks and slammed a throwing damage roll, which is best in slot here. You can also grab a Nihilus with some good resistances, or any decent Exalted Amulet with resistances and a skill rank Corrupt. For the weapons, I'm going for a double Traitor's Tongue for a shit ton of skill ranks and crit chance, where you want the one with the highest base crit chance in your offhand, as that's where you'll get the bonus. After that, you want to start looking at as many LP as possible and attack speed, as this will grant multiplicative damage for Shadow Cascade. And when it comes to the slams, I'd go for these, but replace the armor shred for physical penetration, as you already have a ton of armor shred, but will be lacking penetration otherwise. For the rings, Heirloom of the Last Nomad is fantastic, simply because it's easy to obtain and cheap with loads of LP on it, allowing us to gain health, resistances, and a 2 to triple slam. You need to ensure that you get throwing damage though, as you'll need the mana cost reduction. The same goes for the other ring, but here you'll have to prioritize mana regen as well, to stay above 50% mana. As belt, you can use Thorn Slinger for an extra skill rank if you find one with at least 2 or 3 LP, or else you can use Strands of Souls for extra ward and defense, or just a regular Exalted belt with throwing damage and life. Finally, Razorfall is used for the extra skill ranks and high movement speed, and Artifice of Devastation is used for extra throwing damage and skill ranks. Here you'll want to slam Dancing Strikes ranks, as this one slam will allow you to grab pretty much all the important and ideally throwing damage, or just do like me, slam like 20 of them and end up with void resistance. Good fun. Alright, so that's the gear. Now when it comes to the idols, I must admit, they're kind of overwhelming. There are just tons and tons of ways of building the idols, but this is what I did. I went for a cheap pyramid, as I wanted to maximize my health gained and ensure I had as many retracted omen idols as possible. I then started looking for throwing damage idols and filled out the remaining affixes with anything useful. But since there are like a gazillion different idol setups, I'd say prioritize getting as much throwing damage, penetration, and life as possible. You can do this either via max life altar like this, or look for increased prefix and suffix bonuses and get life on your idols. Then when it comes to the blessings, you want the crit multiplier in the Black Sun timeline, the all resistance in Reign of Dragons. Although if you've already solved your resistances, then you can grab crit avoidance here and ignore crit avoidance on your gear, dodge rating or armor in Spirits of Fire, physical res or cold res in Age of Winter, and finally, mana in the Dildo Man timeline. Hey, nicely done, friends. We're just about halfway done. Let's check out the skills now, where I've made some important changes since last time. As mentioned, we're using Dancing Strikes to trigger Shadow Cascade, Shurikens, and Shadow Daggers. But we also have access to some insanely good nodes here. Firstly, we have Rhythm. This stacks up a fuckload of damage, 3% more damage per stack here, 5% here, and also 40% crit multiplier and some dodge. It's hard to keep this buff up in monoliths, but when bossing, it's bonkers. But that's not all, because we also gain Graceful Arena, generating 20% global damage and damage reduction, which is yet another reason why we're actually properly tanky as a Bladedancer. And next, we have Bladestorm. All of these nodes is how we're allowing ourselves to only cast it once and have it aimbot. We also have these important nodes, which is our main way of spawning shurikens, along with another interaction with Shadow Cascade for more hits, and also a way of triggering lots of extra Shadow Daggers, doing a large chunk of our damage. In our Smoke Bomb, we have our main way of traversing and spawning shadows on bosses, which our Shadow Cascade will utilize. But we're also getting a large chunk of damage as we're standing within it, so you want to try and keep this buff up permanently, at least on bosses. We also have Silver Shroud here, granting us 100% dodge chance after we use Smoke Bomb. This is insanely fucking important on bosses in high corruption, because you can use this to dodge all boss mechanics. Just use Smoke Bomb when you know the boss is going to hit you with one of his mechanics, and you can face tank it to keep DPS-ing the boss. Next is Shadow Cascade. This is our main melee damage dealer, but it also gains damage via throwing damage as it has the throwing tag. So we're getting both damage for our shurikens and Shadow Cascade at the same time when stacking throwing damage. Here we're just grabbing as much damage as we can find. There are 3 main nodes that are important to be aware of, though. The first one being leveraged momentum, granting us more damage the more melee attack speed we have. So not only are we getting more damage from more hits when we stack melee attack speed, but we're also gaining multiplicative damage, making it one hell of a stat. The next important one is Gloomstalker, keeping us at full mana when running monoliths, which is important mainly due to the Shuriken Storm node eating up our mana. And the final important node is Careful Assault. This allows Shadow Cascade to deal more damage the more shadows you have. You used to be able to snapshot this buff, but it seems to be fixed, so I'm only able to use 2 here, because when you've got enough attack speed, you will never have more than 2 shadows up on bosses. When doing monoliths, you'll gain up to 5 as your Shadow Cascade spawns them when you're killing enemies. But it's more important to ensure we gain the damage bonus on bosses, so we're sticking with 2 points here. Lastly, we have Shurikens. This will be dealing a lot of our damage, mainly because we'll be able to dish out a truckload of Shurikens constantly. And finally, you may not be able to get all the skill ranks that I currently have, so if you're missing some, let's see what you can ditch. In Dancing Strikes, you don't need the Shadow Dagger ranks, so you can ditch those, and you can also ditch some of the graceful arena nodes as long as you're able to stay alive. In Bladestorm, you want the top left nodes and the Shuriken nodes, but you can always ditch some of the pure damage nodes if you don't have enough. In Smoke Bomb, you can remove some of the Dusk Shroud nodes and increased duration nodes, along with the Crimson Shroud node. In Shadow Cascade, the crit multi-node doesn't contribute a whole lot as you'll have massive amounts already, so you can skip that one, and you can also remove one of the AoE nodes. Lastly, in Shurikens, I'd skip some of the mana cost nodes and armor shred nodes, as you'll already have plenty of these from other sources. Great job, friends. Skills complete. Let's check out the passive tree, and then we'll check how to play the build to maximize our damage. Starting off in the Rogue tree, you want to go for all the flat damage node along with the damage reduction nodes. The Glancing Blows are also fantastic, where we'll be looking to gain as much Glancing Blows as possible via the tree and our Dusk Shrouds. We also have Twin Blades, which is how we dual wield, and this crit node. You don't want this, it sucks dong, but you'll have to invest points into this if you don't have enough crit chance on your gear, so you achieve the 100% crit chance we were talking about. After that, we go for the Bladedancer tree, where you find just loads and loads of fantastic nodes since the reworks. We have Glancing Blows, some damage, along with flat damage and multiplicative damage for our Shadow Daggers, which will deal a lot of damage on bosses. Unfortunately, we can't use Flow down here now though, as the healing is just too much and it'll fuck us over as we'll lose our low life bonuses when we heal too much. It can work on bosses though, if you don't mind dying and just want the damage. We then have some more Dusk Shroud generation and attack speed, along with more attack speed again, and Perfection. This is fantastic because it's not just a big-ass damage multi, but it also grants us more dodge, ensuring we don't get one-shot in high corruption. Down here, we also have Crit Chance, which you can grab more of if you're not capped, along with one of the main reasons we're low-life Death's Door. 24% damage reduction and 80 crit multi, yes please. And finally, Spellbreaker as our main source of generating frailty for more damage reduction, along with Shadow Master for one more shadow in monoliths and all in, which is upside only as we got 100% crit chance. Then for our final board, we go for Marksman because I want the extra armor shred effect. And it also solves armor shred by itself pretty much if you don't have enough points for it in your skill tree. I'm also rocking Concentration, which is great on bosses when you're dodging everything. Then once I'm crit capped without having to grab crit nodes, I'm also grabbing Meditation and Reflection for the extra damage reduction. But for now, this is what I have to play with. And with that, we're done with this shit. Let's go over how to play the build, along with some tips and tricks. Firstly, we have monoliths. This is just brain-dead easy. You use smoke bomb as often as possible for movement, along with throwing out blade storms every now and then. The rest of the time, you're just holding down dancing strikes. Easy peasy. For bossing though, we have a few different things we can do to optimize our damage. Firstly, before every boss fight, you want to drop a smoke bomb to maximize your smoke blade's damage bonus. You also want to dump the thing on top of the boss as much as possible, because you'll double the chance of your blade storms inflicting shadow daggers then. On the fight itself, you then just drop down blade storm whenever it runs out and hold down the dancing strikes button. That's for lower tier bosses though, because when you get upwards of 2000 corruption, it won't fucking matter how much defense you have. Any hit will one-tap your sorry ass. So this is how I play bosses. I can't one-shot. Firstly, we need to utilize the 100% dodge chance we get when using smoke bomb and generating silver shroud stacks. I play around this one mechanic completely, because with 100% dodge, you can dodge one mechanic. Then once you've dodged, you fuck off as far away from the boss as possible and let your blade storm do the work. Once your smoke bomb is up again though, you can jump on top of the boss yet again, hit him with dancing strikes, and once you've dodged and your smoke bomb is on cooldown, you just move away again. You can cheese basically any boss like this, but it's mainly important on Oribus as the guy can hit for like 50,000 and he has truckloads of health. The other bosses you typically just one-shot though. And for my final tip, you don't have to move around with dancing strikes. Hold the cursor on top of your character and you can stand still while spamming it. Okay friends, that's all for this one. Drop a sub and I'll see you in the next one.